Shalom and welcome to Shmu's Views, Torah Observant Judaism. I'm Shmuel ben Shlomi. I want to welcome you back if you've been following along in our six-part series on Journey of the Spirit. We are now in part 6 today. This will be the final in this series of teachings. And we're going to be looking at the function of the Spirit, the function of our true selves. Before we do that, though, I want to encourage you to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and hit that like button. Also, I would really appreciate it if you could leave some comments below to let us be aware of what do you think of some of our teachings. What do you think of the content? I'd like to hear your ideas on the subjects that we cover. So I encourage you, leave your comments below, and I will respond to them. I can promise you that. Also, I'd like to encourage you to come and visit our website at Shmu's Views, Torah Observant Judaism. The link to that will be in the description of this video below. So, without further ado, let's move on now to part 6, the final in the series Journey of Spirit. And like I said, we're going to be looking at the function of us, Spirit. Now, it was discussed in the previous essay, part 5, Young Souls, Old Souls, that we are spirit, not soul, nor are we just a functioning physical body. This keeps getting stressed in each teaching simply because it is radically important to understand. The ability to recognize ourselves as separate yet integrated with our thoughts, emotions, and senses is central to understanding our true nature, or our true self. The soul has been described with its capacity for will, reason, and emotion, and we've described the physical body with its 5 senses as tools of the spirit. What, however, if anything, are we, and what are our capabilities of ourselves, spirit? As mentioned earlier, all spirits have one nature and one nature only, love. Spirit is love. Not all spirits exhibit this nature in a positive manifestation for a myriad of reasons, but mainly because they have allowed or have chosen to allow some forms of darkness, usually obsessive self-interest, to obscure their ability to see themselves and the rest of HaShem's creation for what it truly is, the manifest expression of the one true Spirit, Adonai Eloheinu. While the nature of Spirit, our true self, is love, we do have 3 powerful capabilities or attributes: knowing, believing, and expectation, with anticipation. These 3 capabilities of Spirit are known simply as intuition, faith, and hope. They are the way in which our true selves function at all times, whether as human or when we are in our real home. The greatest difference is that while human, there are some who see these as aberrations that must be relegated to the background and conquered or put into their place by the domination of the intellect, the emotion, or even to the senses of the physical body. When we recoil from these mortal shells, then these 3 eternal functions of our true nature of love work in perfect harmony, and we are always perfectly guided and directed by them. However, while in these clay pots, one of our goals is to become aware of these functions and allow them to become master over the lesser tools of reason, emotion, and body. A continued lack of this awareness, however, only makes the accomplishment of our return goal or goals more difficult to achieve, thus creating one of the reasons for making it necessary for more reincarnations. To be honest, it is not the only reason for more incarnations, but it can be one of the major causes. Spirit knowledge is one of the hardest things to explain if we try and comprehend the information only with that tool of the rational mind. Spirit knowledge does not always appear rational or logical by human standards. It simply is. It is revealed information without the benefit of secular understanding. However, to facilitate this awareness of spiritual knowledge, the study of Torah is imperative. The Spirit acquires information in no other way. It knows. What's more, the information it knows is generally the type that reason would not, and in most cases could never have got on its own. For example, let me give you a good example. A mother adamantly refuses to allow her teenager to go on an innocent country drive with his friends. It is a beautiful, dry, sunny day, not a cloud in the sky, and yet she knows beyond all reasonable doubt that the vehicle they will be driving driving in will hit a wet surface, swerve out of control, and careen over an embankment, killing everyone in the car. She can't explain this to her son, and she doesn't even try. She just tells him that she has a bad feeling about the day trip. He storms off to his room with anger towards his mother for being so inconsiderate of his needs and his feelings. The mother calls the parents of the other children and tries to persuade them of her concerns and asks them to keep their kids home today. She fails to convince them to heed her apprehension. 2 hours later, she receives a phone call with the terrible news that the car her son would have been in hit a slick spot on the road, left by leakage from a truck. The boys were driving too fast, lost control, and rolled over a small bluff, crashing into the river below. All were killed on impact. Stories like these are familiar, been read about and seen on television programs, highly dramatized. Many labels have been placed on this cognitive ability. The most recognizable is intuition. Science has and continues to investigate such events. There is a whole branch of science called parapsychology and metaphysics dedicated to this kind of phenomenon. The traditional sciences have yet to be convinced that this ability resides outside the confines of the physical human brain because it goes beyond the logic of their empirical scientific minds. For them, anything outside of their limited boundary of consistent, repeatable probability simply cannot be. I don't fault them. As someone who had been in the medical sciences for nearly 50 years, I appreciate the tried and true empirical method. Yet, I also have to appreciate, as many others in science have, that study concerning the things of the spirit seldom lends itself to the reducible lab value. This automatically eliminates it from the thoughts of most scientists as a serious field of study. For them, it is just a bunch of hocus pocus. They remind me of something stated by the late Martin Luther King Jr. He said, quote, "Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men." However, some of the most renowned and admired scientists have admitted using spirit knowledge to reveal to them some of their greatest discoveries. In most cases, these brilliant people struggled for some time, even years, over a problem. Using their awesome and well-ordered powers of deduction, reason, and calculation, they were still unable to uncover the correct answer to their dilemma. Then, in a moment of quiet reflection or routine activity unrelated to their task, they simply knew the solution. Many times, the answer was far removed from the direction that their original thought processes were taking them. Famous scientist and inventor Thomas Alva Edison claimed that most of his ideas came to him whenever he would just relax his mind and his body, shutting down the babbling noise of his eager thoughts and physical senses, and just listen to that still, quiet, unchanging voice deep within himself. Albert Einstein once made the same kind of observation concerning some of his most troublesome theories. He called it imagination, but when you listen to his description, you realize he's talking about something far greater than mental imaginings. There's no great mystery here. Every spirit has this ability. It is more natural than breathing and more reliable than the heartbeat. We are spirit, and spirit knows. We cannot help but know. Why? Because we are spirit, and this is the only way spirit receives information. Human language is a necessary thing, but it can sometimes limit the meaning a person is trying to convey. I stated in the last paragraph that the spirit receives information, and earlier I stated that spirit acquires information. This is not wholly accurate. I simply don't know how to phrase it better in a language the human brain can assimilate. So let me word it in a way in which a spirit can affirm it. Spirit receives nothing in the way of information. It knows. It knows the beginning from the end. It knows in the eternal realm there is no beginning or end. Spirit knows all there is to know and all that is knowable. It simply knows. In the eternal now, this is an experiential reality. However, in the here and now, this is not the case. On this earthly plane, a spirit still, of course, knows, but because we are so trained from birth to be identified with the intellect, emotions, and body, we are not always aware of this experiential life, especially those spirits that live in a Western influence world. The key word in that statement is aware. In order to know, we must become more aware of our true self. Knowing should be the natural way we incorporate all information for digestion by the reasoning intellect. This intellect, being simply a tool of the Spirit, will receive this information and try, if possible, to make sense of it. That is its job. Reason should never take precedence over what we absolutely know. The fact that something may sound unreasonable does not negate the truth of it. For instance, there is a story in the Tanakh about a general named Naaman who had a debilitating skin disorder. The Bible called it leprosy. 2 Kings chapter 5. He was an enemy of Israel, but one day while leading his troops, he was sent to the house of a Jewish prophet named Elisha. The prophet, seeing the physical plight of the man, instructed him to go into a nearby river, dip himself 7 times in it, and he should be healed of his infirmity. The general, after some hesitation, did as instructed and was healed. Now, why did he hesitate? Now, think about this. If I were in his shoes, wouldn't my second thought be, after the first of distrust for an enemy, be, what a ludicrous suggestion. I have been to the best doctors in my country for this disorder for years, and they could not heal me regardless of their many applications. Now this enemy tells me to dip 7 times in this filthy river and I'll be healed? How ridiculous. Fortunately for the general, after a little coaxing from his servants, he closed off his nagging rational thoughts and listened to himself, his true self, and immediately knew the truth of it. He dipped 7 times in the dirty water of the river and was healed instantly. Now, and here lies the danger. A young soul, as we discussed in the last lesson, a young soul may risk confusing what want and desire with spirit knowing, and will blindly follow his impulse in spite of spirit using the intellect's reason to flash all kinds of warning signals. Even old souls are not totally immune from this. The major difference is that an old soul knows better, but by choice succumbs anyway to the pull of the soul or the body. King Solomon likened it to an ox being led by the ring in its nose to the slaughterhouse. Proverbs 7:22. Since the ox can feel the pull on the small ring, he forgets what incredible strength he possesses within himself, and he follows the impulse to allow himself to be led away and mastered by the inferior. Knowing, however, is seldom an emotional impulse. It is enlightenment. The need for awareness is the highest priority in any incarnation if goal accomplishment is to be perfected. It will take some time and effort, but becoming aware of what we eternally know is possible in the physical plane. While we are clothed in clay, we will never know as fully experientially as we do in the eternal now, but we can certainly raise the percentage. Science says most humans only use about 3 to 5% of their brain's capacity. That is like having a state-of-the-art CGI program on a computer, but still drawing by using an old 286 graphics card. For you IT people, you know what I'm talking about. Since the awareness of spiritual knowledge is made manifest to the mind, then the same analogy can be used for it. By raising our awareness, our mental equivalent, then more of what we know will be made available for use in the attainment of our life goal, our goals. Freedom and order rest in knowing. What it will set us free from is the shackles of backward thinking that can only lead to doubt, fear, and unhappiness. It doesn't matter if we are an old soul or a young soul or somewhere in between. Increasing awareness of what we know is imperative. Spirit knowledge is not only freedom, it is vision, order, and enlightenment. It was said over 3,000 years ago that a people who lack knowledge would cast off restraint and perish. But happy is he who keeps the Torah, Proverbs 29:18. It still holds true in this highly technocratic world of today. Perhaps just for that reason alone, becoming aware is of utmost importance. Awareness removes confusion, dissolves chaos, and is a harbinger of light. The one who knows and knows that he knows is never at the mercy of even one with a good, well-reasoned argument. The other 2 functions, or attributes of spirit, are faith and hope. There are those who think them to be the same thing, but they are not, and each plays a vital role. A heretic once described faith as the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Every time I see this quote or hear it used by someone to describe faith, I'm left thinking there is so much more. While on the surface his statement to human reasoning may seem brilliant, but when examined more closely, it doesn't really say anything worthwhile or helpful at all. Fortunately, the Torah takes it up several notches and reveals the meat on the bone. Faith is not just a substance, nor is it only some kind of evidence. The Torah states clearly and emphatically that faith without mitzvot is not faith at all. Real faith is revealed in obedience to the commandments of HaShem as revealed through Moshe Rabbeinu at Mount Sinai. Faith is an action taken based upon the revealed law of Moshe and the knowing of its truth. The action is taken even when it appears against all reason and all odds. The general with the skin disease, the mother not allowing her son to go on a drive, or even when the children of Israel had their backs to the Sea of Reeds and nowhere to go, and the Egyptian army was coming at them. God said, "What are you waiting for? Step into the sea, and I will part it for you." And they did. They stepped into the sea, and God parted it in 12 different sections, one for each tribe to cross over on dry land. They knew, and they acted upon what they knew. In other words, their true self was always in control. And our true self should always be in full control of its reality, while the duty of the intellect, the emotions, and the body is to obey their master. Faith, then, can be properly defined as the cooperative action taken based upon what Spirit knows. The Spirit knows, and it acts according to the laws and commandments of HaShem. Faith is not passive. It is all action. If Spirit can be said to have an emotion, and I only use this term to help the intellect get itself around what follows, then hope is the emotional function of Spirit. Hope is the force behind the actions. It is the motivating drive, and it springs eternal. Spirit is never without hope, and hope never fails. Whereas in the realm of the soul, reason and emotions can sometimes be in conflict. However, in spirit, knowledge, faith, and hope are always in perfect harmony. The Spirit knows. By faith, it acts on what it knows, while hope is the underlying expectation of the realized goal or outcome of the act. Intuition, action, and expectation are the eternal functions of you and me and everyone, because we are spirit, we are love. Beloved Baruch HaShem, I look forward to seeing you next time when we will be having a new teaching, and we'll eventually be starting a new series. So please stay tuned and please stop by and hit that, like I said, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you will know when new videos get posted, and hit that like button. And be sure to tell your friends and family and have them stop by. We'd love to hear from you and them as well. Until then, Baruch HaShem and Shalom.